just the frames. Got keys to kingdom, unlocking chains. Sober the podcast, open up your brains. Sober the podcast, let's get it, man.
Welcome back to Season 4 of Sober the Podcast with your host, Bradley Saxon, Mr. CJ Carlton,
Yo,
Steven Sanders.
Yes, sir.
what's up?
Yes, sir. Back in the lab as we continue our journey of talking about the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think, fellas, we'll conclude that today and probably even get into some of the step work.
Yeah.
Right? Talk a little bit about our experience with Step 1. But we got something new for you guys.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon app, which we've talked about. Link will be in the bio to where you can support us monthly by subscribing as a Trailblazer, right? But here's the cool thing about subscribing as a Trailblazer. You get hours of exclusive content. Matter of fact, today, Monday, we're dropping our first take on our big book study. CJ and I went through the preface and the forward to the first edition. And let me tell you something. I feel like they are really going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like, CJ and I had way too much fun recording that. And so we're going to add a new flavor. We're going to put a new flavor in your ear for this season with this three-pointer. If you remember last season, we started off with guests.
Yeah.
We afforded them either music if they got it right or questions if they got it right. At the end of the show, they would shoot it and get free merchandise. Right? But we're going to take a new turn on it this year. We've got several new subscribers for the Patreon app. And each week, we're going to pick a new person off of this Patreon app. We're going to call them at the front end of the show, and we're going to ask them a question.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they get the question right, CJ James, CJ Carlton is going to get 3 shots to win our
Jumpers.
what can we call them? Our Trailblazer.
Yeah.
Anything they want.
Yep.
Any merchandise they want. So we've picked someone today, Mr. John Thompson.
Hey,
And we're going to give him a call, and we're going to ask him a question.
John Michael.
Matter of fact, we're going to talk about the question. The question is what year did Alcoholics Anonymous start? Can one of you answer that?
Yeah, 1935. June 10th.
Well, June 10th, 1935. Now, he's got to get this right.
Right.
If he don't get it right,
Does he have to
we
get the whole
already
thing?
know what's going to happen.
Get the whole thing or just the year?
What do y'all think?
Probably just the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Let's
the
go
year.
with the year.
Can we
yeah.
just,
And
can we
here's
just
the
get
thing.
in a decade?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If they get it wrong, you will hear this sound.
It's tough.
But
when I shoot the shot, if I make it, he gets another chance.
okay,
Yeah.
we can add that.
Yeah.
If they get it right, you will hear this sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, let's hit it.
Come on, John. Be spiritual today, man.
Yo,
JT,
yes, sir.
Bradley Saxon, Sober the Podcast. How you doing?
I'm good, my man. How are you?
Fantastic. Well, this season, we've started a new three-pointer, icebreaker per se, and we're picking guys or girls from our Patreon app to get called live and answer a question and get a chance at some free merchandise. What you think about it?
I love that. Who's taking the shot?
CJ James Carlton.
Yeah.
CJ
Oh, yeah.
LeBron,
Let's go, cuz.
James Carlton,
Let's go, cuz.
Penny Hardaway, Muggsy Bogues Jr.
Best odds in the building.
Best
Come on,
odds.
cuz.
Best odds, but the problem is it's a left-handed shot.
Oh,
All right, we're gonna give you
I
an
got
easy
it.
one.
all right.
You get 6 tries if you get the whole month, date, and year. But you got to get either the month, the date, or the year of this question correct to win.
Okay.
What month, year, day did Alcoholics Anonymous start?
Hey, it's okay.
34?
Bro,
That's close.
that's so close.
That's close. All right, so I got to shoot a jumper. If I make it, you get another chance. Okay?
Okay.
Lord help me. Oh.
Equally
God,
as
that
close.
was so close.
He made it, JT. He made it, JT. Let's hear your second. Let's hear your second one.
Like a second guess at the year?
Yeah, the second guess, bro.
Bro, you were so close.
All right, so I was close
like
at
you was
30
1 year off.
35.
Yeah,
Let's go. I mean, let's go, JT.
Yeah, baby.
June the 10th, 1935. CJ's
sir.
got
Yep.
3 shots. If
All
he
right.
makes one, you win merchandise.
Here we go.
Come on, cuz.
I got you, baby.
He misses the first, Jay.
Oh, no.
He absolutely
came off the
bombs the second. Here is your last chance.
All right, let's just keep it left-handed.
CJ
All right.
logs
One
up
time,
3
baby.
seconds later, gets his feet planted. He shoots the ball, and he bricks it. Sorry, JT. There will be no merchandise. Thank you for trying. Thank you for answering our call. We
My
love you.
phone went dead. I don't have a clue. I don't hear nobody.
You don't hear
well,
nobody?
we love you.
We love you, dog.
What happened?
You lost.
We love
The
you.
suspense is killing
Yeah.
me.
It's over. I'll text you.
Well, guys, I think that went pretty good.
That did, man.
Yeah.
God, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, CJ, you got something else to practice while we're
Yeah.
not doing podcasts, okay? Because
I'll be in here
I mean,
shooting
these
lefties.
guknow going to have to do 4 steps from now on because you're going to be the #1 resentment because they were that close to a new hoodie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They'll have to pay for it.
Man, I think about this part of the book where it says that we were not a glum lot.
Yeah.
You know, I love when it
Yeah.
says that we insisted upon enjoying life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That laughter is a really good healing agency for the soul.
Yes.
And let's be honest, man, some of the people we're ministering to, they ain't a whole lot funny.
That's right.
And if I was probably one of them in the same place I was 20 years ago, I probably would skip past the front part because I'm not real sure what's so funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you were in my own skin dealing with what I'm going through, it wouldn't be that funny, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm grateful today that we can assist upon enjoying life because we've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we love talking about the history because we love showing you God's fingerprint on what we say we're indebted to that's helped save our life, you know? And I just have loved and enjoyed walking through this journey with you guys about our history. I think that what we were talking about towards the end of the last episode, which is where, you know, Bill goes to Akron, Ohio for one reason. Don't you love that he's going with the motive of some kind of job, business plan, making some money, but God had different plans.
Yeah.
Right? The Bible says that a man plans, but God orders his steps.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm thankful that God orders our steps away from our plan sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Because his thoughts and his ways are so higher than our thoughts and ways, and that he always knows what's best. He always goes before us. And so I'm thankful that God ain't answer all the prayers I wanted him to.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And especially this one. Come on, somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thankful that Bill didn't go and get what he went to get for. Because had he, I can't say God wouldn't have used another man, but there's a chance there is no AA.
That's right. Yeah.
And I don't even really think I would be here without that process.
I know I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ends up here. He finds himself at the Mayflower because what?
Deal
This
blows
deal
up in his
blows
face.
up.
Yeah. Stays a little longer.
Right, and we talked about this. This is a
Yeah.
small recap, but you know, Bill thought that maybe a couple drinks would help him consider what he could do to
His next move.
get this next move going, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But he seen a crucifix,
That's right.
reminded him to call.
Yep.
You know, we know he failed on his first tent. The 11th person picked up. It was someone that was working with Dr. Bob and Ann. Is it Ann or Anna?
Ann Smith.
Ann. I like Ann.
Yeah.
Anne.
That's
Ann.
right. Yeah.
Or looking for somebody to help her husband.
Correct. Yeah.
He's a well-known surgeon, physician.
Yep. Yep.
Can't stop drinking.
Deacon in his church.
Deacon in his church. Yeah. Just probably loves God.
Loves God.
Yeah, dude.
Bookshelf full of
Bookshelves. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Let's make sure we add that.
Yeah.
And he gets Bill connected with Bob.
Yep.
And let's pick up the story from there leading up to AA beginning.
Yeah.
So Bill goes, and you share this very, very well. Bill goes and he begins to spend the night with Ann and Bob.
Yeah, after their first visit, they come back out, and if you remember, we talked about Bob was only going to give him 10 minutes to get Ann off of his back because he ruined Mother's Day and he's drunk the day before, and the two men went into their room for 10 minutes and stayed for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so when he comes out, he essentially says, this might be the first man I've ever met that's like me. Also, the first man I've ever met that's not like me anymore. And so he asked him, could he stay? And of course, Bill's in the position where he has no money to go home, so God's got him right where he wants him. So he literally comes home and stays with.
Before you go farther, let's highlight this because I love this as it comes to mind. Two things when you said that. He's where I was, but if he's going to help me, he can't be the same as what I am.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. If you're going to change something, you can't be the same as that something.
That's right.
Yeah.
And thank God that Bill Wilson was on a new footing.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the book says?
Yeah.
He had grasped new soil.
Yeah, his roots grasped new soil.
Yeah, dude. And he come in and his whole department shouted he had an answer.
Yep.
And here's what I thought when you said that. A man armed with the facts about himself in this solution can win the confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours.
Yeah.
That's right.
Bro, that's huge when it comes to bringing men out of addiction, is that you have to have a message or you have to carry a message that has depth and weight.
Yeah. And
Right?
I love the facts that he says about himself where, in the story, Bob comes out and he says, this is the first man I've ever met who knows how great I feel when I drink.
There's your
That's the facts.
identification.
Yeah, and he knows how bad I feel when I don't drink. So he's not coming with a message of don't drink. He's coming with a, man, I know exactly where you are when you don't drink. You're miserable. You lost. You don't fit.
Yeah, just don't drink doesn't have depth and weight.
No.
Because I'd imagine somewhere along the lines, Bob was not dumb enough to try that option.
That's right. Yeah.
That seems like a great option.
Yeah.
If you identify as the problem being alcohol,
Right.
it seems like not drinking alcohol would be the first thing most people think about.
That's right.
And I would imagine by this point, if Bill come with any other message of just don't drink, let's just go to like Bob's probably shutting that
Done with
off.
that.
That meeting ain't lasting 4 hours.
That's right.
That meeting's lasting 15 minutes
Yep.
at the most.
Yep.
But they something that pulled Bob
Yep.
with a vision of hope.
Yeah.
He had to leave that room thinking, if God can do it for Bill Wilson, he can do it for me.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a seed planted because we know, even as they started trying this journey together, Dr. Bob didn't stay sober.
No. No, they stayed together for 2 weeks, and the history would tell us that they sat around in Bob's library and talked about the love of God and did some of the practices of the Oxford group. They sat quietly in meditation. They read from the book of James.
Yeah. Every day,
every day,
Ann would read from the book of James.
Yep, they'd sit quietly. They'd wait till the Spirit,
Led them.
inspired them, led them to speak.
Intuition.
Yeah, and they did that, and history would say that after 2 weeks, Bob was on fire. Like he just felt lit all the way up, and he decided that he had every year gone to the American Medical Association convention as a physician, and last year they laughed him out of there, and he decided, I'd like to go this year and show him how good I'm doing. And I know somebody else has fallen into that trap before. Bad motive, right move.
Yes.
So he goes back to the American Medical Association, and they end up pulling him off the train a few days later, so drunk that he can't move. And we talked about last time that Bill came and bought him a 6-pack and put him to bed. And the main point of that being that they learned that day that two men or a group of men that are alcoholics sitting around talking about God is not an answer. That Bill had been the one who received the help because he was the one who was trying to help. And the big book says that one alcoholic working with another is the foundation of the rapidly growing fellowship.
Yeah, for
Not
sure.
the fellowships, not the meetings, but that the idea that the helper gets the help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Faith without works is dead.
Book of James.
Yeah, the book of James. It's, one thing to love God. It's another thing to put that into action and fit yourself to be a maximum service to God through helping people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the difference between Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob at that time is Bill Wilson was helping others. Dr. Bob was talking about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Which the Bible talks about. Don't just be a hearer of the word, be a doer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for AA because it taught me how to put my faith into action, And so a couple weeks after he ends up drunk, Bill gives him a 6-pack, wings him to that place. What happens?
So he goes off and does his surgery.
But he had to have the six-pack to do the
had to
surgery
have the
because
surgery,
his
yeah.
hands was shaking so bad.
Yeah, he's a proctologist. and
Yeah.
he's fixing to go work on somebody's proctology, I guess.
I don't know that I'm pretty sure Bill might have came up with what.
Can I say that? Didn't know how else to say that. But,
Proctology,
yeah.
baby.
I mean, are there another
Yes, sir.
layman term for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say it.
Butthole?
Yeah. I mean, just for the guys right now, the guys we're helping don't know what proctology is.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
just let me say, if you got to drink a six-pack before you work on my phone,
Yeah. I mean, this has got weird
That's
real
tough.
quick.
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, thankful for Bill. He probably didn't ask anybody about that suggestion,
Yeah.
right? He
Right.
just pretty much said, "Hey, Bob, drink this, do your surgery."
Yeah.
You know, hopefully the person is, well, he's probably not living anyway because that was 90 years ago.
Yeah.
So hopefully that turned out good, Bob.
Yeah.
But let's follow up with what concluded after the surgery.
So the two men got together and realized that trying to help the next alcoholic was what had kept Bill sober through the first 6 months, and it's what kept Bill sober when it was he and Bob. And so the book says the two men set about frantically trying to work with other alcoholics.
Yeah.
And so think about this. He's not talking about earning salvation. I mean, obviously, Bob was a member of the church. He was a member of the Oxford group. He loved God. He tried to live holy, whatever. Couldn't stop drinking. So what we're talking about working-wise is this effort we put towards killing desires in us that keeps us out of being used by God, which keeps us from having purpose and fulfillment, which keeps us really in a bad way in the earth because we don't have any hope.
Yeah.
Right. And this work you're talking about is concerning the earth, concerning Bob's soul, right? And him getting well in his soul, or him adopting a methodology or a course of action that can keep this drunkenness, this fruit, from penetrating his life, because when it does, it destroys everything that he loves.
That's right.
Right. And so we're talking about a course of action that takes place in the earth that helps remove fleshly desires that, if given our attention to, if setting our mind on, produces destruction.
Yeah.
And so we've moved from Bob had a relationship with God. I would imagine he probably had a relationship with God, and he probably knew more about the Bible than we did.
Yeah.
But the thing that Bill had was that Bill was sober, and he was not.
That's right.
And so while you love God, let's talk about how your faith has it produced the necessary power in order not to drink.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. I think the big book says make sure and let your man know he may know more about God than you do.
Or the Bible.
But
Front
he
and back.
may also be wondering why it is that his
You can
faith
stay
has not
sober,
worked
but he
in-
can't.
That's right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's right.
Why
Yeah.
his faith is working and my faith isn't.
That's right.
Which is really a lot of what we use in certain contexts with people, because we believe that God's best for people isn't being saved, but being a slave to sin. Being a slave to the flesh.
Yeah.
We believe there's a solution. We believe you can recover from alcoholism and live a good quality of life. The Bible says we know, I mean, the big book says that we know, or it's the only place in there where I feel like it tells you what God's will is. We know that God would want you to be happy, joyous, and free.
Yep.
Right? And anything below that we don't believe is God's best for people.
That's right.
And there's no way to be happy, joyous, and free being a slave or alcohol being your master.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And so these two come together to find other alcoholics to
Correct.
help.
Yeah.
To the point they did what?
So they started using Bob's resources, which is a good point, at the hospital to rent rooms, private rooms. Back then, you couldn't get into a hospital if you were just a drunk. They'd put you in a loony bin for that. So if you'd been injured in a car wreck, or if your liver was failing, or you'd come to the hospital. And so Bob would literally rent these rooms, and these men would wake up in shackles sometimes.
Bro, they take a man blacked out, maybe, passed out
in the
move him
hospital.
to the private room,
Yep.
and then the man would wake up, and here's these two guys at the end of their bed trying to tell him about...
Trying to tell them about Jesus. Yeah. Let's be honest. That's what they were doing.
Hey, bro, that's what's up, dude. We just ran up on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love that, dude.
Yep.
We got to get back to just running up on some folks.
That's right.
Like it or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, you just go a couple streets down, they'll run up on you and sell you some
Yep.
fentanyl.
Yep.
I mean, and that don't get you high, but for a few hours, maybe a day,
Yeah.
we run up on them. We got something that might get them high for the rest of their life.
That's right,
bro.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when you recover and you start developing that vital sixth sense, what we have is way more contagious than what they have.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm
All
not
day.
saying you just got sober, you 2 weeks, run up on them. That ain't what I'm saying.
Right.
Right? But given a sufficient enough reason after you have a spiritual awakening, if God orchestrates your steps to a place,
Yeah.
run up on them.
That's right.
Because you got something they don't.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
you may be the very person that can help when nobody else can.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She's a track star. She's a runner. She's a track star.
She gonna run over here when it gets hard.
Run up on them, cuz.
Yeah, dude. Every time. Every
so they end up what we know as the third member of Alcoholics Anonymous, but they run up on Bill Dotson.
That's right.
Bill, you said could have possibly been strapped down because of DTs or whatever the case may be, but he comes to and here's Bill W. and Dr. Bob sitting there about to carry this message to him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And the Bible the Bible, I keep saying the Bible. The big book says that this description of the man, Bill D., was what? The man on the bed.
Yep. That's what they call him.
Man,
And
on
you've
the-
probably
Man number
seen this
3.
picture.
Yeah, it's a famous painting.
It's a famous painting where Bob is on the bed, Bob D on the bed. Or- Did I say
Yeah, Bob D.
Bob D
Yep.
was on the bed, and then Bill and Bob was
Bill
on the
D,
front.
sorry. Yeah.
Bill D.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dr. Bob and Bill was sitting on the end of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really where that painting
Yep.
came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they carried the message to him.
Yep.
Picked up his mat and walked.
Yep.
And within several years, they had about 7.
Yep.
From about 1935 to 1937, they had about 7 guys
Yep.
from New York that were in recovery, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And thus began the journey of establishing Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yes.
which I'd like to say was probably the biggest hit in the 20th century concerning alcoholism.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was
Actually, probably in 5,000 years.
yeah,
concerning
it
alcohol.
was, you know, and still is, I think.
Yep.
If we can get back to what they originally started,
Yeah.
is the biggest breakthrough
Yeah.
yeah.
in treatment
Yes.
Yep.
for alcoholism.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was listening to somebody on the way over here, and they were making that point. You know that a lot of this really is an inspired book, and the reason why we say that is because this man had 3 years of sobriety when they started writing it. He had no knowledge other than his own experience to write anything about how to treat alcoholics. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a scientist. He just simply had his experience. He's surrounded by people who are failing, yet they're frantically trying to write, and they've written a book. 3 years sober that has changed more lives in the history of alcohol than anything in the last 5,000 years.
Yeah, and we talked about it too previously about the 77 people who would all agree
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
on the
that's the miracle.
and
yeah.
because we just went through this first forward to the first edition preface where it talks about that the 164 pages has stayed intact since the beginning, since the first printing, and they've seen it not necessary to add to it because of how well it worked. Like, dude,
right.
77. I mean, they agreed all on this, and for 90 years they've never had to change it. Come on, man.
That's right. Yep.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yep.
You know, and thus began the spread as you would read the first, second, third, and fourth edition of the big book of the fellowship going from, 300,000 copies being sold in the first edition to 1 million and to multi-millions.
19 million.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. 150. Like, it was something crazy.
Yep.
And the spread was clear.
Yeah.
Like wildfire.
Yeah.
And I think it only spreads because it works.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a lot of things that fizzle out. Why? Because it didn't work.
Yep.
Yep.
Right? And I think here's the difference. You see all these movements, you see all this well-meaning attempt over the years to treat alcoholism, but it started really with the Oxford group of adding a program of recovery. The problem with it was they didn't have a continued program of recovery. It was almost like if you were at these 6 steps, these tenets, you
Finished.
arrived.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that separated AA from Oxford, and when they pulled away in 1939 and sort of started doing their own thing, was this Dr. Silkworth's opinion of the allergy and the mental obsession.
Yeah.
Also, a continued program of action to maintain and grow their spiritual condition
Right.
through
Yes.
work and self-sacrifice.
Yes.
And clear-cut directions on how to disciple another man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so thus began this journey of this fellowship growing to what it is now, to touch our lives. I mean, years later.
Yeah.
And now we're doing a podcast on the effects that this thing has for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, folks, I mean, it's kind of hard to deny the hand of God
Yeah.
Yeah.
in these men's life in the beginning of this program.
Yeah.
What it's did for so many, and it's really just a testament of why we love it, why we teach it, why we feel indebted to the people before us. Because it's something weird about men having a non-profit motive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if I need marriage counseling, I'm going to pay for it.
Right. That's right.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong.
Yeah.
I do believe if you want to invest in your mind, you should pay a price.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think if you're going to pay anything on your mind is the greatest thing you can spend your money.
Yes, sir.
But there's something about a fellowship of men and women that identify their fellowship or their work as an altruistic movement.
Yes, sir.
It's a selfless, non-profit motive movement to where I spend my money, I sacrifice my time, and I come and help you for no charge.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's a duty. Maybe there's a sense of duty,
Sure.
but it's more because somebody did this for me. I'm doing it for somebody else.
That's right. Yeah.
Bro, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
And it works because I still to this day live with this selfless nonprofit motive of realizing, man, like, dude, I wouldn't be here.
Nope.
If somebody didn't do it for me, like,
Nope.
I mean, the most selfish thing I could do is keep it to myself.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's how this thing continues to go for another 90 years.
Yep.
Get back to the big book, get back to the basics, recover, have a spiritual awakening, carry this message.
That's right.
And dude, if we stick to what's in between them binders, we can't go wrong, bro.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, nothing has so much ensured me immunity from alcohol more than my constant thought of how I may best help others meet their needs.
That's right. Yeah.
Like the constant, steady, consistent, everyday trying to find a way to help somebody else who's in the same situation I used to be in is what has destructed and destroyed my selfishness and self-centeredness.
Yep.
But I can't rest on my laurels of what I did yesterday. Today we got to get in the lab. Today we got to carry the message. Today we got to help somebody. Today we got to find a way to bring some experience and some strength and some hope to somebody who's hopeless. Man, where would I be? Where would you be? Where would you be if somebody wasn't there to explain to me about an allergy and an obsession of the mind and that I'm not a bad person, but in fact I'm sick. And man, when somebody started to transmit this message to me, man, it carried so much depth and weight. And man, there's such a same spirit in this room because what you kind of led off with is kind of what I was reading on this morning. And this is what it says in the doctor's opinion. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol in these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of allergy. And we're going to get to all this, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form, but I can't stop drinking.
Right.
And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Now listen, this is where I was getting to. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices.
Yeah.
Baby, if you love me,
Yeah. I
you
didn't know
would
what that
stop
word meant.
drinking.
Yeah. Frothy emotional appeal.
You thought froth was like what's on top of a beer.
Well, that's actually how they described it too.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, he
Just
said
that little-
that it's bubbling over with emotional appeal. That's what it is.
No substance to it. Just froth.
Frothy.
Just
I
froth.
mean, our churches ain't filled with none of that.
But listen, the message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people, me, must have depth and weight.
Right.
Bro, can we just like I'm like redoing that. Can we just say that again? I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna start it. You must have thought frothy was something on top of a beer.
Yeah, I did.
Because why?
Because it bubbles over.
And it's an emotional appeal.
Yeah.
That's bubbling over.
I'm sure our churches ain't filled with none of that.
The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight.
That's
Bro,
right.
come on, somebody.
Depth
Yeah.
and weight.
Like, we got to stick to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in church, stick to the Bible. You in AA, stick to the book. It is the message that's depth of weight. But here's the depth of weight. It actually changed your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
it.
I was always told by my sponsor, stop sharing experience that you have not.
Yeah.
Right.
Share what this has done for you.
Yes.
And stop there.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
when you take these steps and it changes your life, you have experience, strength, and hope to share.
Yes.
That is the depth and weight. Like, you've got to preach a message that's changed your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure. My sponsor asked me what that word really meant, and we talked about the overflowing with beer, and then he gave me examples, and then he asked me to look for examples, and it seemed like that's most of what I heard and still hear in the average AA meeting, and is something like, think about your kids. Think about your future jobs. Think about your parents. Think about your health. Think about the opportunities that you squandered that you could have if you would just get sober. And thank God he finally, was smart enough to say to me, well, is it the same kids you had the whole time? Like, is it how many overdoses did you have? Maybe fear of death, 3? Maybe fear of death isn't going to be an answer to
But
you.
those opinions to the real alcoholic and addict kill them.
They do, yeah.
I mean, it's well-meaning.
Yeah.
It's well-meaning. Yeah, it seems like it should work. I thought my kids should be a right answer because it was an answer for other people.
Yeah.
But I had to realize when my mom's holding my child up in my face and saying to me, "Look at him. Isn't he enough?"
Yeah.
And something inside of me already knew before I ever met that sponsor.
You're going to get high.
He's not.
Yeah,
and I wish he was, and he should be. But the truth is, we both know he's not.
Well, here's the truth, man. People like us stand before a judge, and he says, "Sir, if I see you again,
Yeah.
you're going to spend 20 years in prison."
Yeah.
Here's what we're thinking when we leave. What it's going to be like in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know we're going. Why? We might not have the knowledge of the big book. We might not understand the allergy and the mental obsession, but we do understand that our relationship with drugs and alcohol, when we start, we don't know when we're going to stop. And we know,
Yep.
based on our experience, as much as I don't want to do this for this, and this, it's not enough to keep me from drinking.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end back up in front of this judge, and I'm going to jail.
That's right. Yeah.
After you've done it a while, you already know.
Yep.
Yep.
You know what time it is.
Yeah, so that's why we got to get to the big book, back to the basic. We got to carry this message.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got to carry the message.
Yeah.
Not my message, not their message over there at the other AA meeting. We got to carry the message.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of responsibility off of us and puts responsibility off this word that we believe has been inspired by God.
Yes.
Yeah. And here's the thing: while your story of how painful it was for you and how far down you went pulls on my heartstrings and helps me to know I don't want to do that. The big book tells me at a certain point I will have no effective mental defense for my own memories. So therefore, your memories are definitely probably not going to be enough.
Yeah.
And the main frothy emotional appeal he explained to me was, it's a lot for your parents to say, we love you. It's a lot for your wife to say, please stop. It's hurting me. It's even worse for you to be sitting on the edge of your own dirty mattress, looking yourself in the mirror and telling yourself, Stephen, we got to get it together.
Yeah.
man."
Yeah.
That for a self-centered individual like me, there is no more powerful frothy emotional appeal. And I've done that hundreds of times.
Yeah.
We got to stop, man. We got to get together. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
The pain and the memories of the suffering of even a day ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bro, I guess they would like to know about this mental obsession, but until next week, folks, you won't really get more. You won't get much more in depth until you watch next week, because we're going to conclude this episode.
Yeah. Powerful, man.
With leaving you hanging.
Powerful.
But we starting episode 4. We're starting to jump into these first 164
I
pages.
can't wait.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about our experience in depth.
Yes.
And this is going to be a great tool, I think, for men who are sponsoring guys.
Yes.
To go through. And I mean, dude, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to podcasts to hear other people's perspectives, to hear something I ain't ever heard.
Yeah.
To give me a new outlook on how I can help other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I've just hundreds of hours, but, we really hope that you've been encouraged.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some people that love AA, that are AA members, that have recovered, that have never heard this story.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so I'm really hoping this adds value to your journey.
Yeah.
Right? Again, follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube. Links are in the bio. Again, we have a Patreon app where you can subscribe as a trailblazer to support us monthly while getting hours and hours of content nobody else gets. Till next time.
Peace.
Shoo!